Hey, what's up? I bet you're here because you definitely want to create this fuzzy guy, you see. So, let's get down to business. To get started, hit numpad 1 to switch to the front orthographic view, and then subdivide the cube with Ctrl 3. We then apply the modifier to create more geometry. We'll make this character symmetrical, so switch to wireframe mode and select half of the mesh using box select, and then delete that half. Enable the mirror modifier and turn on clipping. We're turning on clipping so we ensure the mesh stays in place and doesn't separate. We'll start creating the overall form by grabbing a few faces with the proportional editing on. You can continue tweaking the shape until you're okay with it. Now that's done, we're going to hit numpad 3 to go to the side view and select these 4 faces. We'll be forming an arm with that. And to do that, we'll be using a free add-on that comes with Blender, that's a Loop Tool add-on. With the Loop Tool add-on enabled and the faces selected, right-click in the 3D window and select Circle under Loop Tools. Now, extrude the circle to form an arm, and we'll just be scaling that slightly inwards. Oh, my mirror modifier disappeared. Okay, so you can just scale the arm inwards with proportional editing. You can scale the faces to make it smaller. And just keep extruding that until the arm length is sort of okay. Now we'll hit Ctrl R to add some few edge loops. This would help it subdivide neater. And you can just tweak that center vertex over there right out. Now hit Ctrl 2 to add another subdivision surface and insert one edge loop right here. So the arm has a nice form to it. Now we're going to do the same thing. To form the mouth, we'll repeat the same process and select the faces, still extrude inwards. We'll be doing, okay, the mouth is looking okay right now. Now add another edge loop inside to give it some form. Hit Ctrl R, add an edge loop where the mouth is and drag it outwards. Okay, so we'll be doing the same thing for the antenna. This time we'll just grab these 2 faces right here. Right click, circle, extrude once again, and scale it in. You can also add some edge loops towards where it connects to the rest of the body to give it a nice fitting. Okay. We'll now start the eyeball by adding in the UV sphere. So you can go ahead and split your viewport in 2 so you can easily control this from the right side as well. Now scale it down to adjust, and you can just keep tweaking and grabbing it a bit. Now that's done, you hit the / numpad to isolate the eyeball because we're going to be separating the eyelid from the rest of the eyeball. To form this half-closed eyelid, go into edit mode on the sphere and select half faces of the wireframe view. Be careful to deselect those excess faces you might have selected in the process. Now we're going to hit Shift D to duplicate this, and we hit P. Now, as you can see, we formed a whole new object entirely. To go further, we might need to delete these center vertices that are forming these tries and just make everything a general polygon. So let's see how that goes. The geometry is looking quite weird. We might just undo all that. So you can go to the solidify modifier and make that -0.7, -0.07. And then you can add the subdivision modifier. Now select the other sphere, that's the eyeball, and add a subdivision modifier as well. For the antenna, we could edit the top part to add a bulb, where we'll be adding a glow shader to later on. Right now I'm just adjusting the edge loops close to it and adding another edge loop so we can form some sort of impression over there, and just scale these edge loops as well. Don't forget to always save your work, like every single second. Save your work. Alright, before we go on to the hair grooming, we'll add some vertex groups. So to do that, go to the Objects Data tab. Right now, we'll select the vertices inside the mouth and click the plus button. Then aside the selected vertices and rename this inner mouth. We'll be needing this later on. With the inner mouth selected, Also select the antennas by highlighting it in wireframe view. Create another vertex group and assign it. Name this one No Fur. Lastly, hit Ctrl I to invert these selections and assign this to another vertex group labeled Fur. Let's quickly create a material for the eye. Simply leave the color white and lower the roughness a bit to something like 0.3. Now go into edit mode on the eyeball and select the center vertex. Hit Ctrl I to gradually increase the range of the edge loop selected. Then create a new material and assign it to the selected vertices. This will be the pupil material. Name this pupil. So the color for this will be black, and also reduce the roughness to something like 0.3 as well. To set a background for the scene, add a plane, and you can scale that up by using the hotkey S on your keyboard. Extrude one edge of it along the Z-axis. Insert a bevel in this edge here and increase the bevel resolution. Now to add a material for the background, we'll just need a simple purple material. Add a roughness of like 0.3 right there. Right here, we'll add in some lights. I used 2 spot lamps on either side and an area lamp at the face. Now this is looking good. Now I'll go into the render view to see how everything looks. It's actually coming out well. Okay, I'm going back to the eyeball and I'm increasing the roughness to like 0.2. It's a bit too shiny. And do the same thing for the pupil as well. Next up, we're going to be creating a skin material. And for this, we use a bluish color and a subsurface of 0.15. Set the subsurface color to red. So we'll also select the eyelid and select this same material as well. Next up, we're going to be adding a material to the mouth, and for this, would simply select the alien material. Also, we're going to be adding a material to the mouth. So to do this, would select the body and hit this plus button over there to create a new material slots. Hit assign. As you can see, the mouth is now white. So would be selecting the alien shader as well, just that we're going to make this red. When it's done, you can see that the mouth is looking okay. Right now, we'll be creating a glowing shader for the antenna. To do that, go into wireframe view and with the circle select tool, select these faces. Then create a new material and assign it to the faces. To create the material, we'll be using the layer weight shaders to create a for now effect. You can watch the full tutorial over here, but promise to come back and finish this one once you're done. Okay, so we add a mix shader here and connect the emission shader to the second port of the mix shader. This will make the outline of the antenna bulb glow when the layer weight is applied. So set the emission colors to yellow and the strength to something like 3. And for the principal shader color, you can set the color to a different shade like orange. Next up, search for the layer weight by hitting Shift A and just type in layer weight. So you plug the layer weight to the factor of the mix shader, and as you can see, everything combines very well. So you can always slide the value to adjust whichever shader you want to be more dominant. But as you can see over here, the emission shader is on the outside, so it's giving it the glow effect. But if you want the glow to come from within, say the center part of the bulb, you can always switch the positions of the shaders. Okay, so green looks better for the other shader. Next up, we'll add the fur particles and rename this fur. Go to the particles tab over here and scroll down to the vertex group. Select the fur group created for all earlier parameters. As you can see, only the selected faces and vertices have hair in them. Alright, set the hair length to 0.2 and turn on the use modifier stack. Under the render option, turn on the steps to 5 in order to increase the smoothness or resolution of the hair. Do the same thing for the viewport display, so you can see this as well in real time. Enable children. Set the display amount to 50 and the render amount to 200. Set the kink type to curl. And once we've done that, we can adjust the other parameters under it, like the amplitude to 0.01, and you can leave the frequency at 2. Next up, under hair shape, set the diameter of roots to 0.4. This setting controls how thin the hair strand looks under the final render. So, as you can see here, the hair didn't distribute evenly about the character. We can fix that in the particle edit mode. So you select the children and set the path steps to 5. Okay, now you can see the bald spots over here. Oops, it's lagging. We might want to turn off children right now. So continue combing the hair particles. And next up, select the Add tool under the Tool tab and select Interpolate. Reduce the count to something like 5. That way it controls how many particles we're applying. You can even put it to 1 if that's easier for you, but I'll leave it at 5. Now turn on children, you can see the particles look okay now. So you go back to your comb tool and comb all the hair in the outward direction of the arm. We'll need the hair on the hand facing out. Also, you can see there's some hairs in the mouth that sort of made their way there. So you can also use the cut tool to remove this unnecessary hair inside. Now that you're done with all that combing, inflate the hair particles using the puff tool over here. It's going to give it the whole fuzziness once we're done with everything. Now let's preview everything in render mode. As you can see, the hair particles are black, and this is because it's still sharing the same skin shader with the character. Parameters that are turned on, like subsurface scattering, cannot be applied to hair particles. Hence, it's showing that way. To fix that, with the character still selected, create a new material and label it Fur. Go back to the Particles tab, and in the Materials mode under the render, select the same fur material we just created. Now as you can see, the fur now has a color, although it's white. However, we'll be changing the shader used here to a hair shader. Now in the shading window, delete the principled BSDF shader and add in a new principled hair BSDF. Change the type from direct coloring to melanin concentration. We'll reduce the melanin to something like 0.1 and select the color to a sapphire shade of blue. Turn up random color to something like 1. Okay, turn the melanin down a bit to 0.05 or 0.03 because it's looking a bit too brown for what we're going for. So let's test render this. The image is looking a bit dull, mostly because of the lighting. So to fix that, we use a HDRI image for this. You can get any HDRIs of your choice from the website in the link below, or you can get it with the Blender Kit add-on. You can follow the full tutorial on using the Blender Kit in the description below. Now let's continue what we're doing. Now that that's done, change the strength to 0.8. If we check again, the scene lighting looks better. So right now we're going to be adding some pose to the character. Start by adding a single bone. To see this clearly, check the box that reads in front under the viewport display option. After adjusting the bone's position, we'd form a chain of bones by hitting E to extrude the head of each bone. We'd also extrude some bones in the direction of the arm. When that's done, we're going to symmetrize the bone to the right side of the character. We do this by selecting each bone and under the Armature tab, append a .L suffix to the end of each bone. This is done so Blender knows that it should symmetrize the left armature to the right. Now, with all the left-sided bones selected, go to Armature over here and select Symmetrize. As you can see here, the tool works automatically. To pair the mesh to the armature, select the mesh first and the armature last. The armature's outline should be yellow while the meshes should be orange. You hit Ctrl P and select with automatic weights. Also parent other parts like the eye and eyelids to the armature. Okay, testing out the posing, I noticed that on the other hand, when we move the arm, you can see that the fur doesn't move along with it. This is because of its position in the modifier stack. Yeah, particles are also applied as modifiers, so to fix this, go out of pose mode and select the monsters mesh. From here, go to the modifiers tab and move the armature modifier above the particle modifier. You can now see that the fur moves along with its bone when posed. Right now, we're creating a basic pose for the character. However, you can pose this any way you want by rotating the bones with the R key. As you can see, it's waving! Yay! And the eyelid is still doing its weird thing. When it rotates, the eye doesn't move along. and the fur is following along with the mesh right now. What I just did is apply bendy bone. It kind of makes the bones bendy and have more resolution. It's like subdividing bones, especially when you're making some cartoony poses. It works really well with those sorts of things. Okay, we'd have to pair in the eyelids, the armatures, and alright, we're all done now, and this is the final pose I've come up with. We're still playing with the bendy bones. So we can continue posing this however you want. Right now I'm literally just giving it any sort of pose. The eye isn't moving, so go to object mode and Ctrl P. It's still not moving. Oh yeah, I selected envelope weights. So we'll hit Ctrl P again, and this time around we'll select automatic weights. Okay, now everyone comes along. So the pose is fine. I'm setting the bendy bone segment over here, the mouth to 2, because the mouth wasn't deforming very well. Just giving it a very weird pose right now. So you can pose this however you want. I hope this tutorial was very useful for you. If you want to learn how to make the glowy shader or learn various tricks with shaders in Blender, you can click this video right here. And if you also want to learn the particle systems, there's a video for you right here in the description. Okay, so this is our final render right here. If you found this video very useful, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. It's going to really support further video releases and better quality next time. Thank you so much. Goodbye.